friends. It's another episode of Ask a Maker Educator. We're excited to say that we have a very special edition today as it's the VISTA takeover. For those of you who haven't checked it out before, Ask a Maker Educator is a live online series designed to share insights and expertise from some of the individuals working to bring maker education to classrooms across the country. I'm Sam Irwin. I'm one of the Maker VISTAs here at Maker Ed, and this
Hadia. Hi, I am a Maker VISTA leader here at Maker Ed, and we are so excited to have with us here some awesome Maker VISTAs, Crystal and Maria, here to share their journey on how they went about starting a makerspace, kind of resource gathering, and also the learnings that have helped them shape their progress. And so for those of you watching online, please use the chat box on the right side of YouTube to submit your questions and chat online with other viewers. Also, you can tweet at MakerEd.org using the hashtag #AskAMakerEducator to submit your questions and also share some lovely feedback.
All right, so Crystal and Maria, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Just real quick, do you want to give us an overview of the school you're serving at, Grass Valley, and just kind of some details on the community y'all work in?
Yes, gladly. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, as they mentioned, we are here representing Grass Valley Elementary. It's a Title I public school in Oakland that serves kids in transitional kindergarten through 5th grade. And just to provide a quick snapshot, our school is located in the Oakland Hills, but a majority of our students actually aren't from the surrounding neighborhood. Many of them are from the Oakland Flatlands, and they commute 5 or more miles every single day to get to school. And about our student body, we currently have 270 students, 75% of whom identify as children of color, and 25% of whom are also children with special needs. And yeah, so with that in mind, our program supervisor, Paula Mitchell, and 4 other really awesome educators here at Grass Valley started a Maker Education and Project-Based Learning program here to help provide our students with more inclusive and student-driven learning models. And so yeah, their pilot program proved to be super successful. And so Paula reached out to Medicare Education Initiative and their AmeriCorps VISTA program. And so yeah, fast forward a year later, and here we are, and nearly our whole school is involved in making.
Wow, that is really awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. We want to also just get started. Maria, wondering kind of if you could tell us a little bit about what brought you to serve as a VISTA, and also specifically with the Maker VISTA program there at Grass Valley.
Okay. So I actually got introduced to making through my previous works, which is in the museums. I worked in multiple museums, and the idea of making is being a big thing in museums. And so at my job, unfortunately, it was very limited, that kind of ideology. And so I decided to look for alternative routes where I can learn about making and stuff like that, and try to contribute back to the museum. And that's how I found about Maker Ed and then the Maker Ed VISTA program. So I enrolled knowing that, you know, I'm going to have this opportunity of volunteering at a school, because I love kids and I love interacting with them, but I also love making, and it was just a perfect fit. And I thought my museum skills here would be a perfect fit to help contribute to a school that is in need.
Great, thank you. And also just real quick, if you could just throw out some of the making that you've experienced or you participate in that kind of drives that kind of passion for you.
Well, we did a lot of, in the museum work, I did a lot of printmaking, a lot of paper maches, paper piñatas, like you can think of everything, artwork, you know, stuff like that. And it's just really interesting. We did mummies before, like decaying apples into mummies and stuff like that. So it's all different types of making, just depending on the museum I was working at, origami too as well.
Great, nice, thank you. That sounds awesome. Over to you, Crystal. I guess I know your path is a little different since you've had previous volunteer experience with another AmeriCorps program. So similar question, what led you to serve as a VISTA and also to serve with Maker Ed?
Yes. Yeah, so the year after I graduated from college, I joined AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps, parentheses NCCC for short. And it's a full-time team-based residential program that's mainly catered around direct service. And I served in the Southwest region. I did some really interesting projects like collecting compost and promoting urban environmentalism, and then also working with the Boys and Girls Club in Oklahoma. And even though I'm mainly focused on direct service, my NCCC experience also allowed me to take on roles in recruiting and community outreach. And that involved a lot of prospect research and resource mapping, and just communicating with local organizations. And I found that I really enjoyed that aspect of my work. And so that led me to look at AmeriCorps VISTA. And then when I was scrolling through my AmeriCorps portal, I found the Maker Ed description, and it looked incredibly cool. I liked the whole hands-on aspect and empowering youth and providing them with agency through making. And so yeah, here I am as an AmeriCorps VISTA with Grass Valley.
Now, y'all kind of got on campus and hit the ground running, and I think that y'all are like a lot of educators where y'all weren't familiar necessarily with makerspaces and all that kind of stuff. Marie, I know that you had a little bit of background. Can y'all just kind of talk about, you know, you were put into a school and one of your first tasks was to make a new makerspace. How did you kind of figure out what you needed to do? What research did you do in order to set up that space, all that?
So the first thing that we actually did before setting up the space is actually tour different makerspaces around our community. One of the first places is Lighthouse, and which is a great source for anybody who is in the Bay Area. They constantly do school tours, and they constantly are willing to help anybody. So definitely look them up, and they're a great resource. So I just went in there and tried to kind of see how they organize their materials, how they organize their space, how their operating hours for that space is, because that's very important as well. And then I also took note of all the other makerspaces that we visited as a group and as a team. And then we kind of sat down and kind of drew out maps and stuff like that. And then we literally went through the supplies that we have and kind of like see how we can categorize each supplies and kind of make it an easy way for the students to understand, as well as the teachers, because it's a space where we want them to literally walk up and like grab and stuff like that. But then we also had to think, okay, how do we check out supplies? How do we check out the space and stuff like that? So all these kind of things came into hand before we actually started building the makerspace. And then it was building the makerspace with shelves and stuff like that, and container boxes and stuff like that.
You know, one interesting thing you just said was about figuring out a system for students to check out supplies and that kind of stuff. Can you just kind of talk about how y'all set up that system?
So what I did was I did a Google form, and basically it has time, date, how much supplies do you want, what kind of supplies, and if any of the supplies, and when are you planning to return it, if it's reusable supplies. So those are actually sent out to the teachers. That's because we have a maker cohort, and they have a making week every about 3 months. And so that's specifically for them. For the kids, we have these things called the project sheets, where it's literally put in front of our door. They fill it out, and then they're just going to tell us what kind of projects they want to do, and then what supplies they need. It's either option. They can either do it there, or they can take it home with them. And so that's how we know that they can check out projects. Some other students just come in and tell us that they want supplies, and we kind of fill out the form for them. So it depends. It depends on what kind of level the student is at too.
And in addition to that, when the students check out the items, we really stress accountability and making sure that the students bring back the items on time. And if something is missing, then they let us know on our code. Yeah.
Nice. That's really awesome. A great system and a great way of, like you said, reinforcing some of those values that sort of support and kind of keep maker education moving forward and being so extremely useful in all the spaces. And kind of touching on what you all were mentioning about like resources, that's a huge aspect of creating a makerspace, and also maintaining a makerspace. So can you tell us any like stories or any particular like unconventional ways in which you all have sourced resources or learned about or figured out about them?
I love to walk, and I just usually walk around my neighborhood. Also like yard sales. So I tend to walk around just trying to look for just for my own pleasure. But then when I come across a yard sale, I'm like, oh, do you have this? Or like if I see something, I'm like, oh, I love this. I'm a teacher. Is there a way I can get it at a lower price? And usually when they
We'll come back.
Might be frozen, but we'll be coming back.
Well, Grass Valley, we know that they have limited internet access, so we're hoping that they flash back in just a
okay. Oh, there you go.
We got them back again.
I'm sorry about that. It's our internet.
Sorry about that, Maria. You're talking about going by the garage sales when you cut out.
Oh yeah. So if usually when I see supplies that I can use for our maker spaces, I ask the people if I'm an educator, if there is a discount. Usually when they hear that, it's automatically free because they really don't need it. That's why it's in the yard sale, right? So one time I asked a lady and she's like, oh yeah, you can have that yarn, but you know what? I have more. And she literally came out with a 5-quart gallon container with yarn that's like valued at $400 because I counted all the rows and stuff like that. And I couldn't believe that she was willing to give me that for free. But then she's like, you know what, you guys do a lot and I don't want you guys spending money out of your pocket. So here you go. And if the kids learn a craft that I love, then that's fine. You know, that's perfect. So that's like conventional ways. Like you can go to yard sales and ask for people if they're willing to give it to you at a lower price or for free. And just mention that you're an educator. I always carry my badge, so that's official. So yeah.
Oh, very nice. Thank you for sharing that. That's really insightful, and I think it's a good point that sometimes just walking around the community and connecting with people inside of it can really do wonders. Crystal, I know that you also have had a lot of success in trying to find materials for use out at Grass Valley. Can you kind of talk to the partnerships you've been able to forge and how those came about?
Oh yeah, one that pops up to mind is our partnership with Diablo Woodworkers. This began during our first trimester or our first month here at Grass Valley. And we were working with our school's first project-based learning cohort. And they were focusing on the question of how can the students take control of their food sources? And one important element that they really wanted to hone in on was some carpentry and having the students grow their own vegetables in planter boxes. And the teachers, they were fully expecting to have to gather their own lumber, and all they needed were some tools probably, and also definitely an instructor to come and help teach the students. And so from there, us as VISTAs, we reached out to professors in the area, and from there, I was able to find Mount Diablo Adult Education, and so I emailed their professors and their instructors, and from there I found out that many of their instructors are part of a club called Diablo Woodworkers, and they were all retired and therefore they really were eager to help share the joy and wonderfulness of carpentry and woodworking, and so they were 100% invested in our project, and so we had the wonderful Tim Killen gather volunteers to come teach our students. And on top of that, they also provided us with all the lumber, nearly $1,000 worth of lumber. And they spent nearly like 12 hours pre-cutting the pieces of the wooden planter boxes for our students. And they donated a number of tools and gave us a whole bunch of really wonderful advice for the teachers as well. They hosted an additional workshop for our teachers, which we didn't really ask for, but they were willing to do so anyways. And yeah, the boxes turned out super awesome and we can't thank them enough. From there, the teachers were able to branch out and focus on nutrition and food justice. Yeah, and then that all tied into the idea of giving kids agency and empowerment when it comes to what they eat and how they maintain their sustenance and their nutrition. And so naturally, the teachers focused on cooking for the second trimester, and that was super fun. And then next trimester, we're going to focus on farmers markets, and the students are thinking about creating their own farmers market. And so it's just really great to see how like one project at the beginning of the trimester of the year can lead to so many more awesome opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that really speaks to that sometimes it just takes emailing some people and trying to find the connections within your community, really dig deeper. But thank you for sharing that. That is a really insightful and impactful story.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I just wanted to kind of ask, are there other projects or other ways in which you all reached out to the community to support any of your projects that you guys were doing or that teachers were asking for support with? I remember you all were talking a little bit about previously how you found some fabric through a really weird way, samples to use for having material in your makerspace and for projects. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, it looks like we're frozen for just a second again. So we are going to vamp by dancing.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. Were you able to hear the question?
I think we got it. Yeah. So for our second learning project-based learning cohort, the teachers focused on putting on stage adaptations of literary works, and the students were involved in making their own props and costumes, which involved a lot of fabric. And so I reached out to like garment manufacturers and local retail stores to see if they had any spare fabric they wanted to get rid of. And I didn't get too many responses, but people were very much willing to direct me to other sources. And I found a design consulting firm, and I had no idea those existed, but I reached out to this really wonderful company in Alameda called Baythread. I told them about what maker education is and how we're going about it here at Grass Valley, and they were super enthusiastic, and they said, come right over, we have a whole bunch of scraps for you, and we'd love, if you need them in the future, feel free to contact us. Yeah. And the students ended up making some really, really cool costumes. Yeah. Like we had some really cute
little goats. Yeah. They were like little goats, but it's like they used lace and like shawls of like intricate fabric, and it was really pretty, and it was like a very cool interpretation of a goat. Yeah. But yeah,
I would totally wear it. It looked really, really awesome.
Once they saw the fabric, they got inspired. So
yeah, is there any other ways that y'all would share that y'all been able to reach out to the community? Maria, I know that you said that you walked around a lot inside your community to try to find, you know, garage sales and stuff like that. Is there anything else that you look for?
I actually look for stores that are closing out. They tend to be really cheap, and I'm talking about all stores. Just don't limit yourself to like tech stores or like arts and crafts stores. I'm talking about clothing stores. I'm talking about food stores, because we do have food projects as well, and like so they probably sell like stuff for you to make food or anything like that. And so don't always limit yourself. For example, like talking about the theater productions, some of the kids, we had spare t-shirts on the makerspace, and they actually dyed it pink to be like the Three Little Pigs, and they add their tails and stuff like that. So you can see that the t-shirts are being used a lot. We also use them for paint shirts so that the kids won't get messy and stuff like that. So always think outside the box. Don't always just assume. I know Radio Shack is closing in different parts of the United States, so I definitely hitched that ride. I got switches and like buttons and stuff like that for less than 50 cents. I couldn't believe it. Like nice switches, which are usually $5, I got them for 50 cents. So it's amazing. Just keep constantly looking for that kind of stuff. Warehouses, I know sometimes they close too, and they start selling to the public as well.
You know, one of the other interesting things I look at when I think about Grass Valley is that y'all got a lot done in a year. And, you know, I think that y'all are in a unique position because y'all have a timeline on your service. Can you just kind of talk about what y'all envision in the future and, you know, just kind of how it gets built up over time in the makerspace?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we have a year's timeline, and so that makes us all the more motivated to try to do the best we can and get as much as we can done within that time frame. And we've mostly been focusing, one thing that we're focusing on is sustainability. And so we're keeping everything that we produce in a Google Drive, and then we're also keeping a big bin in our classroom filled with printed flyers and other documents that we've created as well. And one vision for me personally is I'd like to see the makerspace be used a lot more frequently, and to have more students come in with their own individual maker projects and ideas. And also for all the cohorts to be involved in making. I think I think we just have 3 more classes left,
Yeah.
and then we're all set to go.
K through first. And then our long-term goal is to get the community involved, not only as kind of contributing supplies or resources, but as makers themselves. We want them to use our makerspace. We want them to be alongside the kids, learning as well as teaching the kids. And so that's why we started our blog. That's why we started our Facebook and our social media, and then stuff like that. And then as well as trying to advertise, like put advertisements in newspapers. So because our area is very secluded, like literally you have to like drive to get to somewhere. And we met an elderly lady the other day, and she went to our event, the Black History Month event, and she loved it. And that's the thing that we want the community to know, that there's a school. It's not just for kids, it's also for you guys, and to come and enjoy it, because making's all about sharing, right?
And through our maker program, as Maria mentioned, we really want to get the community invested. And we just want people to be excited when they hear the word make, or when they hear about our Wonder Workshop and our events. And also we want our families and students to be proud of the making that they're doing here at school, because they're one of the main reasons why our school is the little school that could, because they're responding very well to making. And like there's no quantitative data that shows that that making is helping our students, but we can see it in our interactions with them. They seem so they're so self-assured, and they're always just very engaged, and always more than happy to jump on the maker wagon, even when our makerspace is closed and we have like meetings and stuff. They're always very eager to step on in. Yeah.
You know, one final question I kind of have just about your school community, and you touched on it a little bit, is I think that y'all done a really unique job of getting the community involved and kind of bringing the community's culture into making. Can y'all kind of speak to the different events that y'all had in order to try to accomplish that, and the thinking that y'all had going into those?
Mm-hmm. So the first event we ever had was a Halloween night, Halloween makeover your costume. So we asked the students to come and bring their costumes, and they can design it, or if they needed an accessory. So for example, one of them was a Ghostbusters backpack. He created it. Another one was...
we had a student create her own little a cheetah bag, for a little bag with cheetah ears for her own cheetah-eared costume.
And then we had Simone Biles, right?
Yeah,
the gymnastics.
Yes. And then a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like Ninja Star kit.
Yeah, it was funny. And so we had that event, and that was just an introduction. It was really small, an introduction to the school, because they never had these maker events ever. And so it was an introduction, and then which led us to our grand opening, which was a big event. And I think Crystal can talk about that more.
Oh yeah, so for our grand opening, that was mostly about sort of ingraining the fact that we have a makerspace here on campus, and getting our Wonder Workshop's name out in the open. And for that event in November, we invited, of course, our families and our students, but also various community partners in the Bay Area. We had some makers come and demonstrate weaving, and we had a tech company called Qubit come and display their computer kits. And we had a number of other sort of low-tech making activities as well. And the students and families, they just went around each station. They completed the challenges, and they were able to also participate in a free raffle. That got a lot of the kids excited.
Yeah, and then we partner up with the after school program, so that really helped us kind of spread the word, because they already had a foot. They've been here for a while, and they already knew the parents personally, so that kind of helped us get launched up. And then after that, we have
we had
the Black History Month. Yeah, so African American innovators. Basically, this whole event was on Black History Month, was focusing on African American innovators. The workshops were tailored around that, and they were actually driven by students. So the workshops were held by the students. They taught anybody who came in, and it was really exciting to see how invested the students were. We had this new program called the Maker Ambassadors that we just launched with the event as well. And these are kids that had to submit an application, got selected, and they had to work on their project for a month. And that include research, doing their maker project, and presenting their maker project. And so that was exciting for the kids to see how invested they were. And they're always constantly telling their friends in class what they were doing every day. I mean, they came in during lunch, they came during lunch recess, they tried to come before school. They came after school. So it, like, you can see how like this making had a major impact with them. And it was fun to see that kind of program launch and be part of a bigger event.
Wow, that is like really amazing to hear about the successes and the ways in which you guys have reached out to the community, the school community, and the larger community to help support and kind of develop this culture and push it forward. So kudos to that. And like, we're getting to the last few minutes, so I wanted to, to see if you guys have any upcoming events that you want to share with our audience.
So we have the East Bay Educators Makers Meetup, and it's going to be April 27th. It's actually in our site, Grass Valley Elementary School, Oakland, California, and that's going to be fun. We're going to be talking about culturally
responsive making, and then we'll also be explaining a little bit more about how we came up with our African American Innovators event. And yeah, you'll be able to see some of the making activities we came up with. And then after that event, we also have, we'll also be making an appearance at Lighthouse Community Charter School's Maker Fair. Yeah, we'll be, I think some of our students will actually be there, and they'll be showing off some of their making skills. Yeah, and then after that,
the Maker Ed Comedian. So
yes.
we look for us. And then we have other Maker Fairs we're attending as well. But you can all catch that in our Maker blog at wonderworkshop.wordpress.com.
And if someone want to follow you on Facebook.
Oh,
yes. We have a
These are our
little,
handles.
I don't know if you guys can see, our Facebook, Grass Valley Elementary, OESD, and our Pinterest as well, Grass Valley OESD.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us. As we kind of hinted at, you can get more from Maria and Crystal at the Maker Educator convening that is going to be happening this May. For tickets, visit Maker Education Initiative on Facebook, and you'll see a post there for registration. Crystal, Maria, thank y'all so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure and very insightful to get your thoughts and views on Maker Education, and just kudos to y'all. Y'all are doing wonderful work over there at Grass Valley.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.